There's a very low percentage of this that is smiles and glory holes.
A friend in need's a friend indeed. A friend with weed is better. A friend with breasts and all the rest. A friend who's dressed in leather. A friend in need's a friend indeed. A friend who'll tease is better. Our thoughts compressed, which makes us blessed and makes for stormy weather. A friend in need's a friend indeed. My Japanese is better. And when she's pressed, she will undress. And then she's boxing clever. A friend in need's a friend indeed. A friend who bleeds is better. My friend confessed she passed the test. And we will never sever. Days, dawning, skins crawling. Days, dawning, skins crawling. Days, dawning, skins crawling. Days, dawning, skins crawling. Pure morning, pure morning, pure morning, pure morning. A friend in need's a friend indeed. A friend who'll tease is better. Our thoughts compressed, which makes us blessed and makes for stormy weather. A friend in need's a friend indeed. A friend who bleeds is better. My friend confessed she passed the test, and we will never sever. Days, dawning, skins crawling. Days, dawning, skins crawling. Days, dawning, skins crawling. Days, dawning, skins crawling. Pure morning, 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 pure morning. A friend in need's a friend indeed. My Japanese is better. And when she's pressed, she will undress. And then she's boxing clever. A friend in need's a friend indeed. A friend with weed is better. A friend with breasts and all the rest. A friend who's dressed in leather.
I'm not quite sure why I'm here or what I'm doing, but there's a reason. I don't like Facebook, and I don't like the internet. The library blocked my password. Now tell me, does that make any sense to you?
This is absolutely lit. This is lit.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dark Times with Dark Match Steve. Early showtime, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we got an early show today. I understand the chat is going to be a lot less active, likely. There's another show. I'll even say it's the Pigpen show is on right now, and it's our buddy the Fat Pig with some of his friends. I think Jen and Bobby Nick and a few other people are on. So yeah, I get it. There's going to be a lot of people that are often in my chat that are over there hanging with them. I don't want it's his time, and he only does the Pigpen on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I'm not trying to step on him. I was in their chat earlier, didn't even mention the fact that I was going to be live because I don't want anybody to, come over here from over there and mess with his numbers. So anyway, yeah, guys, today, and there'll probably be some people that watch this later after Scott Starbird or something, which is cool. And again, we'll have Scott Starbird are normally in the 6:15-ish p.m. Eastern time slot. And he should be going on around then tonight, but it's normally him going on then, and then I go on after him. But yeah, go definitely check out Scott Starbird when he comes on after me. But yeah, guys, today, whatever, we're talking about Terece McKenna, guys. I thought today would be a cool day to go over this. We don't have to, talk about who's bombing who right now. We can talk about something else. It'd probably be good for us. But we're going to check out Terece McKenna. I've mentioned him a few times on the stream, and we've played a couple of his lectures. The one night I remember I was on, I ate some mushrooms, and they were delicious shiitake mushrooms, and I shit my pants. And then we watched Terece McKenna on here while I digested the mushrooms, that was fun. A little too much fun, I think, actually, but we got through it. Anywho, and there was one other. What did we watch? What was the other one? I know there's not many people in the chat right now. I'm sure. So the one was Shamans and the Machines, or Psychedelics in the Age of Intelligent Machines. That was one lecture we watched. I think that was the one when I was on shrooms. But there was another one about what was it? I can remember the thumbnail. I don't remember the name of it. But yeah, Terece McKenna is a good time. He's been dead since like 2001, I think, but he's had a bunch of lectures and stuff that people have uploaded on YouTube. They've been on there for like 15 years. There's, I think, one or two of the videos that we're going to check out tonight are like 15 years old. They've been on YouTube for 15 years. So, and this is a thing I do like to do because I don't often have much time to go back and listen to Terence lectures. I've listened to pretty much all of them. I can imagine that I've actually listened to all of them, even if I don't really recognize it. There are so few and far between that could possibly be lectures of his that I haven't seen. But the thing is, it was back in the day, right, fresh out of high school, when I was doing a bunch of psychedelics myself, doing mushrooms and acid. So this is also, besides doing a little refresh in general, I do like to go back and watch some of these videos on stream and view them with the same standards that I held, the standards that I have now, and compare it to the standards that I held back in the day and stuff, and see also if any of this stuff makes any sense when I'm not on acid. I'm intrigued to know how that goes. So anyway, let me pull up the chat. I'll get you guys up on the page. Where are we at tonight? Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, also known as X, if you're autistic, addicted to ketamine, and in them files, boy. Let me get you up here, guys. Wherever you're at, get in the chat, lovers. I got you in one spot here. I won't miss you. Especially if you're new. We like fresh fish in here. I'll definitely highlight your comment. Especially if you're talking smack about me. We encourage bad behavior. I don't even think, you know what? Let me see. Hold on, I'm getting the chat up. I don't even think I got a mod in here right now. You could just get away with whatever you want. My mods are all busy. I don't even have a mod in here. They're modding another channel right now that's live. Johnny Z's in here. What's up, bro? Thank you guys for at least coming to give the click. I understand if you can't watch live, it's okay. This video will get at least a few clicks later on. I know there's some Terence fans out there that'll appreciate going through some Terence content and reviewing it. Thomas Gilson's up in here. Michael Earl. Bob Coke Can Cook. It's 420 with DMS. Hell yes. Dude, I like doing this. I don't like stepping on the fat pig's time, though. I wish, whatever. I wish that wasn't an issue. But anyway. B-Dubs is in here, too. What's up, bro? How's it going? What's going on? We're checking out some Terece McKenna. About to melt your fucking brain. So, guys, tonight, what we're talking about is specifically Timewave Zero and Novelty Theory. I've talked about this a little bit on the channel. I didn't, expand too much because I knew eventually we'd come on here and do a full video dedicated to a full stream dedicated to some of these concepts. But yeah, guys, I've talked about this, that this, if you're a Terece McKenna fan or listener from back in the day, okay, like me listening back in 2010, something like that, or before, you're looking around as someone who's listened to a bunch of Terence stuff. If you're fairly, pretty familiar with all of it, you're looking around at what's going on in the world right now, and you're going, "Oh no, I get it. This is exactly like, this makes sense to me because of some of the concepts Terece McKenna exposed me to." Sometimes I look around in the world and I'm just like, "Holy fuck, he was right, man. He was totally right." And I've discussed some of these with these concepts with some friends of mine that I'm still very close with, that were around and also listened to Terence stuff back when we were doing a lot of psychedelics. I still dabble here and there as often as I can, but back in when I first got, like, around when I graduated out of high school, I was getting off of antidepressants, and so I was doing a lot of psychedelics, and I didn't quite understand that, or I didn't appreciate that you can have a trip and then sort of take some stuff in and then integrate that into your life. You don't have to, you can give it some time in between trips. You don't have to do LSD every weekend, twice on the weekend. Okay. You don't have to take it that far. You can kind of let your brain reset a little bit before you absolutely rattle it again. I didn't appreciate that back then. I do now for sure. But hold on. What's up? Chris Thompson's up in here. What's up, dude? How's it going? Hey, listen, I need to talk to you. I don't want any I'm just trying to talk about Terence in here right now, and I don't want any drama type of stuff. But dude, I gotta talk to you. I wish we could have a conversation. I don't know, the situation you have going on with the Pigpen people and all of them. I just I don't know, dude. It doesn't sound good. I wish we could have an actual stream where we have a conversation about this and actually try to work it out or something, because the allegations they're making against you are it's not cool. You've always been nice to me though, so I feel it'd be unfair if I never even heard your side of the story at all or whatever. So I don't know, dude. I appreciate all the support you've given me, but yeah, I hate I really hate the drama. We're all smaller channels. We need to help each other and stuff. I thought things were going good. Cable Dog's up in here. What's up? What's up? I dude, for a second I didn't recognize the name. What's up, dude? How's it going? I'm not in my normal time slot. Thank you guys for checking out, clicking on the video right now. The views, the live views are absolute dog crap right now because I'm in my in a bad time slot. So don't feel too much secondhand embarrassment. All right, let's get right to this. So the novelty theory, this is one thing. Like I said, you're looking around, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the Timewave deal. So Terence McKenna, where should I even start out? Chris, go ahead, dude. Yeah, for sure. Send me a link to that. I'd love to check it out. Jesus Christ. Bogdan Shevchenko Beatty. I used to do drugs, and now I get off on pure goy maxing. Just same. No, dude, I don't. So I've never been a big fan of pharmaceuticals. I've always, for the most part, there's been times you could say I've slipped up from what my standards are. I was addicted to painkillers for a while after I got some dental work done. That kind of sucked. But yeah, I've always been a person that's leaned more towards like plants, herbs, that kind of stuff, even funguses here and there. So yeah, the drugs is pharmaceuticals it's goy slop. Pharmaceuticals are goy slop. Guys, I'm telling you, for I'm sure there's some Terence people that are gonna Terence fans are gonna click on this, and I'm probably preaching to the choir in that regard. But anyone else that might not be familiar with some of this stuff, I don't know. Guys, plants are actually like medicine. If you're not familiar with the stream, especially in the last like month or so, I was dealing with some major fucking health problems. Like I was feeling like dog shit. And I avoid the doctor because it's a long story. I had a reaction to some medication I was erroneously prescribed. And that was like 15 years ago. I still have issues from it. But I'm pretty much like I was on the verge of having to go to the hospital, and I've fixed it all with herbs, drinking apple cider vinegar and adding different herbs to my food. And I'm 100% like I feel fucking amazing right now. I'm in good shape. I'm waiting for an injury to heal, but besides that, like I'm lifting weights. I'm like cut right now. I'm really toned. We got a mod in here. What's up? Thank God we got a mod. We need you, sir. The Terence people probably won't be trolling too hard. They'll probably appreciate someone talking about Terence. Anyway, all right, let's get to it here. So the novelty theory, Terence, I was saying Terence is an anthropologist. And like I said, he passed in 2001, but he used to do a bunch of different lectures talking about history, anthropologies, and often and usually 99.9% of the time, he'd talk about it, whatever the lecture would be about, and somehow it would include psychedelics. It often, even if it was a lecture, like I'll show you guys an interview or a lecture that's supposed to be based on interviewing him about a concept or a theory he had unrelated to psychedelics, often the psychedelics end up coming up. He's pretty known for, guys, before Joe Rogan, everybody knows about DMT because of Joe Rogan. That's what it feels like. And it's like, it's a whole meme, that Joe Rogan fucking will, any guest he has, whoever he's talking to, that he just wants to tell them about DMT. That was like a meme for a long time. Before Joe ever took up that role, it was Terece McKenna. In fact, before I ever heard Joe talk about it, I heard Terence McKenna talk about it. And I didn't know who the fuck it was. It was just some guy, some weird kind of skinny dude with really curly hair, a white dude afro type of curly hair and glasses. And he's just talking into the mic like this, explaining an alien experience, basically like being abducted by self-transforming machine elves, and just talking in this hypnotic, intriguing way about this experience doing DMT. And that was the first time I didn't even know who it was, but we were surfing around on YouTube and messing with psychedelics, and I stumbled across this video, and then instantly I was like, I got to hear more of this guy talking. Like I'm on LSD and I'm listening to this guy describe a psychedelic, and it sounds like something crazier than I'm on right now, and I can't even imagine that. So I was definitely intrigued. And Kenny Powers is up in here. Thank God we got another mod. What's up, lover? Thanks for joining me, guys. So guys, by the way, I just want to say the Pigpen show is on. If you're in here, please at least I hate that I'm taking up a little, I'm in their time slot a little bit. So at least open them on another tab. If you're on a desktop, could you pretty please make sure you give them their click and stuff, because I feel like a dick being on right now, but I had to stream earlier. Anyway, so in getting into all this, we were intrigued by Terence talking about psychedelics. He goes into a bunch of different topics. He's very, very knowledgeable and has an incredible memory for being someone who is such a proponent of cannabis use. So eventually we stumble onto him discussing novelty theory and Timewave Zero and the I Ching. And the I Ching is, he could probably describe it better, but the I Ching is a book that also there's coins that go with it. And I've never, so a friend of mine who was also into Terence a lot bought the I Ching and the coins that go with it. And I will say, I don't remember exactly what we did, but one time before we took LSD, we threw the coins and did this I Ching thing. It's a Chinese divination tool or something, basically. And we might even pull up, Tommy Chong talked about it on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he gives a very interesting and I feel like well put explanation, because the I Ching is kind of weird. We've messed with it a couple times, and the one time I will say we did the I Ching where I just remember my friend was guiding the whole thing. He was reading from the book, and like you're supposed to throw these coins and see what numbers. Basically, it's not numbers on the coins, but there's little like lines and symbols on the coins. And those correspond to stuff in the I Ching. So when you throw the coins, you look at that and it corresponds to something in the book, and you read what's there. And I just remember the passages that we read according to the coins that we threw. Somehow, and it might have not been like concretely, but somehow it related to us about to take this white blotter acid. And it was weird. And then we took this acid and had a crazy trip. But Alberto Perez is up in here. What's up, bro? Guys, we're talking about some really interesting shit tonight. So hang with me. If you're not someone familiar with Terence, definitely stick around. This guy's pretty crazy. He's super, super smart. You guys want to know, like, I mean, some people say I kind of got the gift of gab and I just like to fucking talk. This is where I get that. Terence is where I get that from. Listening to Terence talk while on psychedelics. It does something to your brain. Yeah, thanks for joining us, bro. What's up? All right, so should we pull up? Let me see here. This might be a good place to start with this one first. Novelty theory. Okay. Time and the I Ching. So, okay, let's check this. I know this video is pretty decent because we watched this a few times. But the one thing that you will notice, guys, just like when we watched the Terence video, the one that's Psychedelics in the Age of Intelligent Machines, you will notice that this guy is talking about concepts that are only, widely known in the last few years. And this guy wasn't even alive past 2001. Almost all these lectures are in the 90s. So it's kind of crazy. Some of the concepts about time travel and theories with consciousness and all. There's all these kinds of concepts and ideas and stuff that he discussed in here that were just way ahead of its time.
You just need more space. I feel
Necessarily that he's right about all of it, by the way. I'm just saying the concepts themselves and the discussions. If you heard Rogan talk about some of this on his show, you'd be like, oh yeah, Rogan, this is the kind of shit he's been talking about, for the last few years. This is like, Rogan, I'm telling you guys, Rogan only exists because of Terece McKenna. And Rogan has cited Terence for a lot of different concepts and stuff. And I knew before Rogan ever mentioned Terence's name or had Terece McKenna's brother, Dennis McKenna, on the show, before any of that, I already knew. The way Joe Rogan talked about DMT, I was like, oh yeah, this motherfucker definitely listened to Terence.
I feel like I'm suffocating.
Oh no.
Mystic traditions and also.
Okay, let's go from the beginning. Bland. Piggy's in here. What's up, lover? Hey, I've been telling people for real that I've been telling everybody to go over to your stream or at least get a tab open with you guys on it. I'm sorry I'm on during your time slot. I can't stream tonight. I got plans for later tonight, so it was this or no stream. But I love you, lover. Please don't take it the wrong way. I'm not trying to step on you. You'll notice I never said anything in your chat. When I was in your chat telling people to smash the like button, I didn't say one thing about me going on early because I didn't want them to hop over here. So. Oh, I don't think I introed well enough. He'll explain it. He'll explain it well, but this whole thing about novelty theory and the I Ching, Timewave Zero. So a short version, just to, wet your lips a little, which, by the way, I need some water, is Terence noticed the way things are changing and the rates of change. And again, guys, think about this back in the 90s, someone noticing this and trying to talk about it and other people kind of calling them crazy. Okay. Because it's so, like I said earlier in the stream, it's so obvious now when you look around as someone that listened to Terence, you go, wow. Basically, his theory was novelty and the rate of change is increasing. Okay. You could say like, from the invention of the first computer until it became, a household item. And then now it's a thing that's in your fucking pocket, that fits in your pocket and has more tech on it and more capability than the fucking rockets that supposedly took us to the moon and stuff. That kind of thing, and the rate at which that happens. So, if you're constantly improving, eventually you'd expect that to happen, where it might take you from the start of the Industrial Revolution till building the first like real computer might take you, I don't even know what the timeline actually is, 100 years or something. And then in 50 years, computers are like, a fucking like household item that instead of being a giant thing that took up a whole room, it's a little box that's on your table. But it's still kind of a pain in the ass and it's huge. And then in just a few years, it's something that's in your pocket, everyone's walking around with. That is like Terence was seeing that back in the 90s and said, that's something that's weird. It's not just like things are getting crazier and more complicated. The actual rate at which that is happening is increasing at a staggering rate. So there's that. And then he also tied that concept in with the I Ching. So when he was on mushrooms, basically the short version of this, when Terence was on mushrooms, he said that the mushrooms like told him to use the I Ching and come up with a computer model to a computer model that would demonstrate this effect of novelty. Okay. And that computer model program is called Timewave Zero. That's the thing he came up with. And oddly enough, there's a little bit of controversy on how he arrived at the date, but oddly enough, the date that Terence McKenna put for the so the Timewave Zero basically showed, you could say, from the beginning of I forget when it supposedly had started. I guess the Big Bang. I forget exactly, but it's a graph, basically a graph that shows change over time, like, and there's spikes and troughs, and it goes up and down, and but the rate of change over time goes just up, and then at the end of the graph, the rate of novelty as marked by this graph just goes up off the graph into the ceiling, which is what we're living through right now, because Terence's time wave calendar ended at the year 2012, December 21st, same date as the end of the Mayan calendar, or the end of that cycle of the Mayan calendar. Terence put as the day when the novelty goes through the roof into infinity, essentially. So there has been some pushback, and Terece McKenna even has done a debunk video. We might take a look at that too. But this is the interesting thing, is that I think Terece McKenna may, and this might be a little bit abstract, and buffering. You guys are having buffering issues? Hold on a second. I think you got to refresh. Yeah, it's good on my end. It's working for you, Kenny. Thank you. Anyway, let's get into this. I was saying why I think he was right. And I guess maybe keep this in mind when we get into some of this shit. But I always after 2012, as someone that was, you could say a fan, follower of Terence, whatever you want to call it, a listener. After 2012, it sort of felt weird, because after December 21st, 2012, there really was a weird feeling like nothing happened. Wow. Like, I honestly, part of me thought something absolutely crazy was going to happen, and either a fucking meteor strike, or all of the electronics had some kind of glitch, or something that would be like palpable, very noticeable and undeniable. Now I didn't have my heart set on something like that, because I understood how Terence talked and stuff, and I wasn't gonna throw all my eggs into one basket, essentially, and wanting to see some kind of change or something. But part of me was like, man, I don't know if something hasn't happened, because I sometimes he did sort of talk about artificial intelligence and stuff, and and different theories on kind of what it would look like for the novelty theory to be true, and for novelty to go off the charts. And one thing that I feel, and this again is partly a vibes thing, but I guess I could try to force some data out of this idea. But part of me kind of feels like he was right in that something happened with tech. And I feel like some people might honestly not find this too hard to believe or agree with me on, but now, December 21st, 2012, that date exactly, maybe it wasn't on that date particularly when this shift happened, but I almost feel like it's a noticeable thing that technology has for sure has a mind of its own now. It's sort of got the advancements in technology and everything has like a mind of its own. I kind of, if there's an easy way to sort of put it, I feel like the shift that Terence might have been right about that happened around 2012 might actually be that either some form of artificial intelligence that we aren't even like aware of has, and he claimed that if some AI intelligence kind of thing woke up, it would fucking hide. And maybe that happened, and it's like messing with weird aspects of culture and stuff that we don't exactly grasp or something. But it certainly feels like somewhere around 2012 something shifted with technology and the way that humans interact with technology, to where I feel like technology used to be a tool for people. It was like, there was no getting abstract about what technology was. It's sometimes a tool for, actually doing constructive stuff, sometimes a tool for recreation or whatever, but they're tools. It's a very understandable relationship between the human being and whatever piece of technology, tool, or whatever that you're using, where it's a tool. It's something you're using for your motive to accomplish something. Yeah, again, even if it's entertainment or whatever. Now, I feel like it's palpable for other people as well to notice this, that technology is like there's a whole different scheme going on right now where we are completely like wrapped up in it and tied to it, and probably to the point that we are like, imagine if just like we lost 50% of just our tech capabilities or something. I mean, we would all it would all come crashing down. And I feel like our relationship with technology is unhealthy now, right? I feel like if Terence was right, and I always think to this when I think about his time wave theory and stuff, what happened in 2012? Did a true, did we meet, did we come to some crescendo, to some point of no return or something? And I just can't help but feel like that's definitely true, but it might not be in a way that Terence specified, Anyway, I babbled a lot. Let's get into this, lover. Sorry.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jeffrey Mishlove. Today we're going to examine the nature of time and the relationship.
Maddie says, you sons of bitches. Steve has to stop streaming so early. This is when I usually mew. You can't mew while you watch this. You guys need to be mewing. You need to be doing men's Kegels. You need to be doing all that.
Between time and the human mind. With me in the studio is Terece McKenna, a specialist in shamanistic traditions and also hallucinogens. Terence is the co-author with his brother Dennis of Psilocybin, the Magic Mushroom Grower's Guide, and also The Invisible Landscape, Time, Hallucinogens, and the I Ching. In addition, he is the developer of a computer software program called Timewave Zero and is the founder of Botanical Dimensions, a nonprofit organization devoted to preserving hallucinogenic plants as used by native peoples throughout the world. Welcome, Terence.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Shamanistic...
I can't do a Terence impersonation. I fucking love Terence.
Peoples and early peoples throughout the entire world have all been involved in systems of what we call divination. It could be throwing bones or using the I Ching or looking at the entrails of animals or clouds of smoke, but each system seemed to involve some sort of a unique way of linking the human mind with the very nature of time itself in order to understand cycles of time and understand, perhaps even to predict the future.
Yes, well, it's certainly true that pre-literate and Aboriginal peoples have had an obsession with time. However, it's an obsession shared by the historical societies as well. Time seems to be the dimension about which we have the greatest anxiety, perhaps because it's the dimension into which we see with the least clarity. numerous peoples throughout the world have dealt with this lack of clarity as far as time is concerned by developing various methods of divination or sortilege, as it's called. The Maya to this day practice sortilege of a very complicated sort in the highlands of Guatemala. African peoples have complex divinatory systems.
And we don't have to even mention the enormous sales of the I Ching and tarot decks and astrology products here in the United States.
Guys, who in the chat for real? Do I happen to know what year this is? Check this out, Kenny. I don't know what year this is. This is, let me check, but look at this. 14 years ago, 88. Guys, this is 1988. This is 1988. This is Joe Rogan before Joe Rogan. But check this out. This is 14 years ago. We were watching this, guys. 14 years ago. I was watching this on YouTube like a freak. Bro, this is I'm constantly mind blown by some of the stuff he would talk about in the 80s and 90s. Like, holy crap, are you kidding me?
Yes, the I Ching is the divinatory system ni plus ultra. It seems to very early have captured the imagination of Western Orientalists James Legge and Richard Wilhelm. Their translations made it available to the Western world, and the psychologist Carl Jung.
Carl Jung, guys, that's what I was going to ask. Who in the chat, I want to know, who has actually heard of the I Ching before? I know Tommy Chong talked about it. Some of you guys might be familiar with that from when he went on Joe Rogan's podcast, which we might pull that up. But who's familiar with the I Ching? Has anyone heard about that before?
In inventing and discussing the phenomenon that he called synchronicity, popularized the I Ching by using it as an example of this particular phenomenon.
And I know in the literature today, especially in transpersonal psychology, there are many psychotherapists who use the I Ching as a regular part of their practice. And parapsychologists have found striking evidence that the coincidences of tossing the coins in the I Ching do have psychological validity.
Yes, well, the thing which amazed me about the I Ching and caused me to become so deeply involved with it is this fact that it seems to work against all rational expectation.
Guys, this is what a lot of people say about the I Ching, that it does seem to work and it's very spooky. Tommy Chong said the same goddamn thing. When he was in prison, I think he had his own, like he brought or ordered the I Ching in prison and used it with some prisoners, let them toss it and get their, basically have their fortune read to them. It's a little different, but basically, and a few of them got like freaked the fuck out. I'm going to pull that clip up. Let me see if I can find it.
The carrying out of this random
I Ching right here. This is how it's spelled. I space Ching. I Ching, but it's the letter I.
ritualistic activity seems then to give a reading which is in fact applicable to the unique situation. Now, Jung's explanation of this was what he called
like Tao Te Ching. You guys know Tao Te Ching?
Acausal connectedness or synchronicity. This was simply the idea that it was possible for there to be a coincidence of congruence between an internal state, a psychological state, and an exterior event. An obvious example of this would be you think of someone you haven't thought of for years, and an hour later in the mail, a letter arrives from them. And Jung was fascinated by these kinds of apparent coordinations of the interiorized psychic sphere and the exterior three-dimensional objective world.
I can't find, I thought this would pop up easy, but I'm having trouble finding the Tommy Chong clip.
My approach went somewhat deeper than Jung's, in that I felt that I had looked at many divinatory systems with the notion that I was looking at...
I found this is a short, but it might have a... Man, I wish they would actually... Okay, no, this isn't a good clip. Christian Sather, what's up? Thanks for checking out the stream. Welcome to Dark Times with Dark Match Steve. You said, I remember McKenna saying that the West delved into a science of space while the Chinese delved into time. Yeah, I Ching is like the periodic table of elements for time. That is almost exactly like a quote. I think you got that exactly right. Book of Changes, yeah. Yeah, he did say that. I don't know if that's this interview or it might have been a lecture that was from. But yeah, dude, the I Ching's very interesting. Let me see if I'm trying to... Let me see if I can find the full podcast, and maybe, just maybe, someone has like the timestamps, because I want to find the full segment where he talks about it. Dude, there's no clip. What the fuck? Or it's buried? Hold on one second, guys. Okay, we'll go back to this. Hold on.
Artifacts of culture, productions of the human mind that were, to a large degree, arbitrary. My involvement with the I Ching led me very slowly and reluctantly to the conclusion that this was not simply a product of a cultural mentality or the stance of a particular people in a time and a place, but rather that the ancient Chinese had somehow gotten a leg up even on modern physics and had produced a theory about time that was in fact objectively possible to correlate with our own experience. In other words, a theory of time much more akin to a physicist's description of it than a shaman's description of it. And you mentioned in your introduction this Timewave Zero software that we've developed. What we've done is simply to formalize the notion of the Tao, to make a deep study of the mathematics inherent in the structure of the sequence of the I Ching, See, most people are quite familiar with the fact that the I Ching is composed of hexagrams. Hexagrams have 6 lines. They may be broken, they may be unbroken. Less well known is the fact that there is a very ancient tradition, even before the Han Dynasty, of a particular sequence being the correct sequence. It's called the King Wen sequence. And while it has been agreed upon by all scholars commenting on the matter that the King Wen sequence is somehow primary, no one had ever explained how it was ordered.
I mean, the order of hexagrams from 1 to 64.
That's correct. Why is the first one the hexagram with all solid lines? Why is the second one the hexagram with all broken lines? And so forth and so on. I carried out an exhaustive mathematical analysis of the properties of the king.
Okay, guys, I think I found it. I went to the Joe Rogan episode with Tommy Chong. No one has a clip up anywhere because this, I think, is more of an obscure kind of thing that people don't realize the significance. But I went to that episode of the podcast and I pulled up the transcript. I got to give YouTube credit. That's actually really cool that I could pull up the transcript and search the transcript. Did you guys know you could do that? I just found that out. I had no idea you could do that on YouTube. I got to give them credit. That is actually badass because I found it. I'm almost certain I found the clip and we would have been lost without it. And I did want to play it to show someone else's anecdotal spiel on the I Ching. I'm almost certain I found it. I haven't listened to it yet, but this part it shows from the transcript. Tommy Chong says, I was meaning to read, and I helped a lot of people. I would do the I Ching, the I Ching. It's not spelled correctly, but I'm pretty sure that's what he's talking about. So we'll get to that after this Terence video.
Wen sequence and reached a number of conclusions.
Hold on, let's back it up a little because I've been chopping it up. Sorry, guys.
Somehow primary. No one had ever explained how it was ordered.
I mean, the order of hexagrams from 1 to 6.
Okay, the hexagrams, guys. Hold on a second.
A deep study of the mathematics inherent in the structure of the sequence of the I Ching. See, most people are quite familiar with the fact that the I Ching is composed of hexagrams. Hexagrams have 6 lines. They may be broken, they may be unbroken. Less well known is the fact that there is a very ancient tradition, even before the Han Dynasty, of a particular sequence being the correct sequence. It's called the King Wen sequence. And while it has been agreed upon by all scholars commenting on the matter that the King Wen sequence is somehow primary, no one had ever explained how it was ordered.
I mean, the order of hexagrams from 1 to 64.
That's correct. Why is the first one the hexagram with all solid lines? Why is the second one the hexagram with all broken lines? And so forth and so on. I carried out an exhaustive mathematical analysis.
Okay, so I'm sure some people are lost. The hexagrams. So am I not... I'm not crazy here, right? Christian, who's in the chat, sounds like you're familiar with Terence. The hexagrams he's referring to are the lines on the I Ching coins, right? And they're not hexagrams like platonic hexagram, like a geometric shape. It's just 6 lines that are next to each other or something. I forget. I Ching hexagram coins. Okay, hold on. Aren't there the lines on? Okay, yeah. See these, hold on a second. Let me get you guys over to this tab. Sniz is in the chiz. What's up, bro? Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. So, hold on a second. Okay, fuck. Wrong tab. Here we go. So these are the lines he's talking about. Broken versus unbroken. So he's saying for the King Win sequence, he's saying the order of them is all solid, then all broken, then whatever. But he's talking, this is the lines that he's talking about. I'm not familiar with why. I guess it's 6 lines, so they're calling it a hexagram, but it's not a shape like the hexagram, the shape. Yeah, see, these are all of the I Ching lines or whatever right here, I guess. And they're on if I'm not mistaken, they're on the coins themselves. These coins, like, oh. So anyway, yeah, you gotta, but this is what I don't understand. Like I said, guys, I had a friend that kind of like looked into it and messed around with it. And I never really got that into understanding it. But basically, yeah, it's like you use the fucking coins. And they have symbols on the coins that correspond to stuff that's in the book, the I Ching book. And we'll hear, because I think Tommy Chong explains how you use it like that. Terece McKenna is going off into left field. So what Terence is talking about, in case you guys, this I think might be actually helpful for me being here instead of you just, watching the video. What Terence is talking about is he's taking the sequences. So these sequences of the different symbols, okay, and he's making a mathematical like model program type of thing out of these symbols. So he's taking the relationships between all of these, what he's calling hexagrams, which is just different combinations of full or broken lines that are on these coins, okay? And he's taking all that data of the coins and putting it into a computer program to make this thing called Timewave Zero. And I don't know if he says it in this interview, but at least some point, a lecture or some interview, he said that the mushrooms told him to do this. Okay. All right, let's get back to the video. Let him explain a little bit more. I just wanted to give you guys some context because it's a little confusing even for me. But I just want you guys to kind of understand this. Like, that these coins are used for the I Ching thing. And what you do is you throw the coins, see what the coins say, and then that corresponds to something in the I Ching book. And when you read it, it's spooky and sometimes is like prophetic and weird. Terence is going a whole 10 steps further in taking the I Ching coins, making a whole computer program out of the data from the sequences of these coins or whatever. So anyway, let's get back to this, just so you kind of know, even if we don't and I don't entirely understand, we can kind of have a grasp of where they're going with this a little bit.
Analysis of the properties of the King Win sequence, and
that sequence of the coins. So there's a certain sequence of those coins with the symbols. He's taking the numbers of that data and making some program or something like that. if I understand correctly.
Reached a number of conclusions, such as it is not a random sequence. It was very, very carefully constructed to conserve certain mathematical goals. For instance, the number of lines that break as you transit from one hexagram to another is arranged and controlled in such a way that when you're all done, you have a ratio of even to odd of 3 to 4. Yet this is achieved without any breakages, first order of different breakages of magnitude 5.
Now you're beginning to lose me a little bit.
Yes, well, what this all means very simply
Losing everybody, bro.
is that the King-Wen sequence was constructed by minds the equal of research mathematicians working in the world today.
It sort of reminds me of the builders of the great Greek temples who used the mystical rectangle.
Proportion and symmetry seems to be the central concern here. You see, we have inherited from our fascination with Eastern philosophy the idea of Tao. And Tao in the East is a concept which antedates the introduction of Buddhism into China by many, many centuries. Tao is the notion of a flux which comes and goes, a transient medium which builds structures up and pulls them apart according to its internal dynamic. Now, because these notions were introduced to the West by mystics and philosophers and people with an interest in metaphysics, it wasn't immediately grasped that a philosophy of this sort could be a mathematical formalism. That if we're talking about a medium which comes and goes, we're talking about a wave mechanical phenomenon. Well, science in the West for the past 150 years has developed a powerful set of techniques for dealing with wave phenomena.
And you seem to be suggesting then that the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, in their mathematical relationship one to the other as you go through the sequence, describes a waveform.
A waveform which is experienced in the world by human beings as time and history. You see, it's almost as though in Western science, we're pretty confident that there are approximately 100 elements, physical elements to matter.
That's right, different atoms.
That's right, that are incommensurable. They are somehow primary. The Chinese looked not at the world of matter, energy.
Here we go, bro. Yeah, this is what was your name? Our buddy that stopped in here, the other guy that was familiar with Terence. Oh, Christian. Here he goes. Yeah, you I guess you have a good memory, or this triggered a flashback for you. You've probably watched this as many times or more than I have. But yeah, this is the interview where he says that. So the I Ching is like the periodic table of time that was made by the Chinese.
And space, but the world of time, and carried out a very rigorous analysis of their own perception and discovered to their amazement that time is actually composed of elements.
And as we have then, if I can extrapolate from what you're saying, the periodic table of elements in Western chemistry, which defines not just 100 elements, but a relationship between them, cycles and patterns.
Bonding relationships, that's right.
Families of chemicals.
Right.
So we have, in other words,
Bro, me too, dude. You know, like, you said I've watched all Terence interviews like 10 times. Dude, they're so good. They're so good. Terence is such a good speaker, and even if it's something you don't really agree with him wholly on, he's a good speaker. He really is. You know, there's some theories, and I don't really prescribe to these. I'm not a proponent of them, but you know, some people think he was like an intelligence asset or something. To me, Terence was like a little too, he was popular in certain circles, and he would do lectures, but he never like filled a goddamn stadium or something like that. He wasn't even as big as Timothy Leary, I think. So, and I don't really think that he was an agent. I feel like he would have been bigger. He would have been more popular and really done more to infiltrate like mainstream media. Terence seemed like he was happy with kind of being on the outskirts and not a household name or something like that. But I mean, the way that he is such a good speaker is suspicious. He's especially when you're doing psychedelics, he's hypnotizing to listen to, and he is such a good descriptive speaker. That he's like ironically he has a curly fro because he is the Bob Ross of like lecturers. He can just paint a whole experience for you as you listen to him.
Families of ways of looking at time.
Well, the hexagrams are the...
Dude, for a while, you said the book slapped too. For a while, I only read Terence books. I pretty much don't read at all now, but for a while there, I was like only interested in Terence books, reading them, because I could just hear his voice reading the whole thing and it would get me through it so quick. And I even started doing that. Like I read some of Graham Hancock and who was the guy? Pinchbeck that wrote Breaking Open the Head. I read a little of that too. And I pretty much, I read a lot of books in Terence's voice because it's like easy to listen to my inner monologue, or, it's easy to listen to him speak.
Elements in the Chinese physics of time. They created a science that reinforces primary perceptions that we all have, but for which we have no science. For instance, I'm sure you've noticed that every day is rather like every other day. Nevertheless, I'm sure you've also noticed that some days are radically different than others. Well, this sameness but different rule applies on all levels in a temporal hierarchy. Centuries are rather like each other, and yet occasionally a century will come along that is quite anomalous. We call this sameness and difference nesting fractal. This is a new branch of mathematics.
Fractal. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree for the most part. I think you said Timewave Zero is a cool metaphor, but it's not a hard science, I'd wager. I'm pretty much there with you. I feel like that sort of goes, I mean, Terence did spit facts often, and lesser known facts. He's a very, very intelligent guy, but yeah, sort of, I think that goes with a lot of the stuff he would say. There'd be a lot of facts in it, and maybe his exact spiel on something might not be like a one-for-one representative for something you could like prove with data or something like that, but it sort of in a metaphorical way, he was just like dead on about like everything. It seems like, I don't know.
And quite simply, what the Chinese discovered circa 3000 BC was the fractal nature of time, that the rules of expression of temporal elements which govern the rise and fall of dynasties also govern the rise and fall of love affairs and moods.
Now, you're describing this in mathematical terms, and I'd like to come back and ask you to define the term fractal in a moment, but I'm also curious about how you seem to be going back and forth between something purely quantitative and something qualitative.
Well, that's the interesting thing, you see. The Chinese understood that these temporal elements were, in a sense, creating interference patterns with each other much in the way that pure tones struck out on a keyboard will, through their interference with each other, create a melody. So that, for instance, if I find myself sitting in Hadrian's hamburger joint enjoying a burger, by this theory, there would actually be a relationship between that act and the Emperor Hadrian's campaigns in Britain before the fall of the Roman Empire. This is the amazing thing which James Joyce used and understood in the construction of his literary works, that a man leaving his...
Guys, do y'all know James Joyce? Jesus Christ, I can't believe this is bringing back so many memories. You guys know about James Joyce, Finnegan's Wake? Do you know about that shit? Guys, you should... I'm way nerding out here, but I have always loved Terence stuff. Dude, Terence does a breakdown of some of James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, the book Finnegan's Wake. I didn't even know books could be written that way. Guys, you have to, I'm telling you, you want to feel dumb, you want to feel real fucking stupid, go look up Finnegan's Wake and try to read Finnegan's Wake. Dude, it's like layers and layers of meaning. Promo's in here. Lover, what's up, bro? What's up? How's it going? Just like we landed on the moon with math. True. Marshall McLuhan said, acid is the lazy man's James Joyce. Dude, that is wild. Dude, okay, yeah, Finnegan's Wake. I wish we had time to get into like all this shit. Watch a Terence video with him breaking down Finnegan's Wake. That's wild. I'm telling you guys, go read it. You won't even understand it. There's like, it's just every sentence is like saying fucking 5 to 10 different things at once about different periods in history and places and geographical locations and people, and it's like one sentence, and it's like every word is a reference to a bunch of other stuff, and it means different things in different ways if you like actually have the historical knowledge to understand the context of it. It is mind-blowing that someone wrote a book like that, honestly, and I don't even fully understand it.
Home in Dublin on a day in 1905 to buy kidneys to fry for breakfast.
Okay, hold on. Back it up here so we can hear this whole deal. 13 what?
It's the amazing thing which James Joyce used and understood in the construction of his literary works, that a man leaving his home in Dublin on a day in 1905 to buy kidneys to fry for breakfast is in some mysterious way actually repeating the peregrinations of the hero Odysseus around the Mediterranean in his campaign to destroy Troy and return to his faithful wife. Allegory is what we're talking about, but allegory has never been taken seriously by science. Analogical reasoning is definitely déclassé in the better laboratories. But in this ancient Chinese way of looking at things, everything was caused by its analogical resonances with past and future events which had the same temporal elements embedded in them. Now, it's difficult to go into this without resorting to at least charts and diagrams, if not puzzling equations with sigmas embedded in them.
Well, let me step back for a moment, because we've been talking very intensively about the I Ching, which is one system, a very popular and profound and highly respected system of this type. But there are other comparable systems. For example, there's astrology.
That's right. Astrology is another one.
So, Maddie, I did read your. I meant to respond to it earlier. I don't know if I could find it. Juggalo Jen, what's up? What's up? How's it going? Welcome, welcome. Are you guys still live over there? I didn't mean to go over y'all's time. I had to go on early or not at all today. I'm gonna be busy later tonight. Thanks for joining us. Go follow if you guys aren't already. Go sub to Juggalo Jen. There are some friends over there, good people. Where was it? Shit, I was looking for Maddie's deal. You were saying if he presented it more as a philosophy instead of a science, he'd have been taken more seriously. You know, it's like I'm barely smart enough to even have this kind of conversation here, but I don't know. I feel like there might actually not to completely. This is sort of and it's getting like weird. And this is the problem is I haven't listened to a lot of Terence recently. In fact, everything we've listened to on the podcast or on the stream here and reviewed, it's truly been me going back after years of not really listening to any Terence stuff, going back and reviewing some of the shit that I was really inspired by and stuff. So it's hard for me to. There's some of these concepts and stuff that I wish I could do a little bit of like research on and to really brush up on some of the stuff. But I feel like it's a huge mistake to not take Terence seriously in at least some sense in like a true hard science kind of way, to just brush it off as like sort of like philosophical ramblings and stuff. And I know that's not exactly what you mean probably, but I feel like that is something that people do with him. And I feel like he's such a smart guy, and that's just, it seems like such a mistake. I feel like he's right about this, and I guess he's really citing the Chinese philosophy and I Ching and stuff with there being actual like characteristics to time itself and conscious beings interacting with a physical world on a like a time scale. There's actually like characteristics to the element of time itself that causes recurring type of themes and stuff like that. I feel like that may never be something that can be understood in a hard science type of way. But I don't know. There's some people, and this might be getting too abstract, but it's like you could say, and Terence has even said, where am I going with this? Like, with physics and stuff, even. I mean, it gets so fucking weird and like nonsensical when you get to like quantum physics and stuff like that. You may as well be talking about fairies and fucking angels and fucking God and bullshit and simulation and all of that. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I get, it's not like I don't appreciate hard sciences. Like I'm just some fucking airheaded idiot or something, but I don't know. World's weird.
One of these systems that seeks to
We live in a society.
define prepotent relationships in nature that can be known by man in order to ease movement into the future. The success of astrology, I think, is borne out by its persistence. It is, after all, one of the most persistent of human intellectual tools. It was developed 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. What it I think what troubles modern human beings about astrology is that it is a mechanistic system. It's like a group of cogs and wheels which all can turn at given rates, and therefore their end states can be predicted.
But then we're dealing again with the nature of nested cycles.
Well, we have a strong intuition of free will.
Yes.
And this is why I think quantum physics, with its probabilistic notion of determinacy, has been so attractive to the modern mind. My conclusions looking at the I Ching have been that it is not possible to know the future. For if it were possible to know it, life would be a determinism, and thinking would be divorced from meaning, and we would be out of business. But what is possible to know about the future is levels of novelty, which future states will fulfill by the happenstance of unpredictable events. Now, this is a formal way of saying we know where the road goes, but we don't know what the scenery looks like. I think where the future is concerned, we can know where the road goes, but we cannot know what the scenery will look like. People who have looked at my theory have said, well, these time maps that your computer draws, you're trying to get rid of the future. And as a matter of fact, a map of time no more eliminates the future than a map of South America eliminates the need to go there. It simply gives one a better handle on one's destination.
Now, you mentioned quantum physics a moment ago. And
yes.
In quantum physics, there are a number of different notions related to the future. One is a notion of multiple universes. Another,
the Wheeler notion.
Yes, and another is a notion of everything is probabilistic. And while we can't know with any certainty what will happen, we can state with various probabilities what the possibilities are. How does this relate to your view of the time in the future?
Well, I think that at the macrophysical level, things are rather rigidly determined, with the exception of living organisms. So my interpretation of what biology is and how it relates to quantum physics and time is really biological systems are amplifiers of quantum mechanical indeterminacy.
Yes.
They are a way of taking the smidgen of indeterminacy that exists at the microphysical level and coaxing it into a kind of macrophysical cascade, which is life, consciousness, and self-reflection.
And you see this described in the I Ching.
Yes, I think the I Ching is an abstract modeling system for breaking this down to its simplest elements and then seeing how it works. Now, we're accustomed to thinking of science as linear progress from the distant past to the present. What I'm suggesting is that at least in the matter of time, the Chinese of the pre-Han period had a much more true and formally applicable notion of time than we ourselves do. We have failed in our effort to assimilate time into our physics because of our obsession with matter and the release of energy.
And there's some scholars who suggest that the African Yoruba people, with their system of divination called Ifa, which has a cycle, I think, of 244 or 264 various myths and stories, is even more sophisticated than the I Ching, which has only 64. Have you looked into that?
I have looked into it. What makes the I Ching so powerful in my mind is that it appears to be an exact analogy to the mechanism of DNA.
Oh.
There are 64 codons, which code for amino acids in DNA. There are 64 hexagrams. There are 8 primary hexagrams. There are 8 indispensable amino acids. I felt that really the I Ching is like mankind's best shot at this because it has this reflection in the biological matrix out of which consciousness emerged.
In other words, the various ancient divination systems may all reflect a striving of human beings towards this intuitive understanding of the cyclical nature of time and the relationship between mind and the flow of time, and yet the I Ching may have just sort of hit the nail on the head better than the others.
Well, it's like looking at a 17th century description of the motion of the planets or a 20th century description. These are basically refinements. But yes, I think that the I Ching represents a primary perception of the organization of mind, time, and matter. And I'll even tell you how I think they got a leg up. I think basically there is a tradition in Central Asia of the so-called stilling the heart techniques vis-a-vis yoga. And these are techniques where vital functions are suppressed. Breathing becomes very minimal. All exterior inputs are suspended. And eventually, I think the Chinese sages who practiced this form of meditation noticed a flux at the center of the stillness, which they called Tao, and which they set out to phenomenologically describe, not knowing whether it was physics, organism, or deity. And they did not prejudge this question. They simply gave a phenomenological description of the transcendental flux that they encountered in states of deep yogic ecstasy. And lo and behold, it turns out that this is the perfect technique for studying time. Time is not a phenomenon where you build machines with 8-kilometer diameters that cost trillions of dollars. Time is a phenomenon to be studied by attending dinner parties, perhaps, or pursuing love affairs, or watching the passing of the seasons. Activities much more commiserate with our vision of the Taoist sage than the white-coated scientist of the present world religion of science. So Really, I think it was an involvement in organism and in the human experience.
In other words, the laboratory for studying time would not so much be our observatories or our systems of quartz clocks, but rather looking inside of ourselves, observing our own organism.
That's exactly precise, and the workings of our own psychology. To my mind, the greatest commentator on time in the 20th century, after Albert Einstein, would certainly have to be Marcel Proust. Proust understood more about the time we experience and was able to communicate it than any person who has ever lived. And that's within the confines of what most people consider a fairly effete, highbrow literary project.
Swan's Way.
Well, the entirety of the Remembrance of Things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't read that, so you've got me a bit in the dark here. We have about 5 minutes left, so could you summarize that point or amplify it a bit?
Well, I think the point we're trying to make here, that I have been involved with over the past few years, is that a revisioning of time would assuage much of what is called modern anxiety, and that we have limited the categories we were willing to entertain in dealing with this problem, and that we must genuflect to the ancient Chinese and take a page from their notebook in this matter, the I Ching, as a divinatory system of great age, reflecting the dynamics of our own genetic material, and also, though I didn't mention this evening, it also has deep calendrical properties, can be used to keep track of time, lays a basis for an understanding of this curious phenomenon called synchronicity, the coincidental meshing of interior psychic events and exterior events in the real world. It lays a basis for us to understand the unity of ourselves with the real world that our present approach makes difficult to discern.
So whereas Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist who wrote, incidentally, the preface to Richard Wilhelm's book of the I Ching and postulated this theory of synchronicity, well, Jung didn't really provide any mechanism for synchronicity. He simply said it works this way, that the mind seems to be related to these events, and he found an enormous therapeutic benefit from that understanding. What you're suggesting is that the potential mechanism behind the Jungian notion of synchronicity has to do with the structure of time itself.
That's right.
And you must be suggesting, therefore, that the human mind, at this very deep level that the sages discovered from stilling their organism, that the mind has a parallel structure, an isomorphic structure.
That's exactly the central point. The mind arises out of matter. This is why the I Ching works in both worlds. One is the reflection of the other. The key to healing the apparent dualism lies in studying the temporal mechanics indicated by the I Ching. And I believe we've done this formally, mathematically.
Terence McKenna, you're taking the provocative position that the I Ching, which some people view as religion and other people dismiss as superstition, is actually a science. And I gather that your computer software package, Timewave Zero, proposes to be the demonstration of that.
We believe it does demonstrate it. Of course, ultimately, it will be up to our colleagues to judge the worth of our case.
Terence, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, let's hop over to this deal and see if this is right. Tommy Chong talking about the I Ching. It says 11124.
The book's in there, and then next thing you know, half a dorm would be tripping on acid
because they're eating pieces of the subscription paper.
The paper, yeah, and that kind of stuff always went on. But as far as you could read whatever you wanted, basically, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I read a lot of books that, you know, I was meaning to read, you know, and I helped a lot of people. I would do the I Ching. Do you know the I Ching?
Sure.
Yeah, I would do the I Ching.
Guys, holy shit. Guys, I mean, give me credit here. You know, I found this just on my own out here on the internet. It's the Wild West out here. No one clipped this, and I found it. Look at me. This is why I try to tell you guys, streamers are actually very intelligent. We're basically geniuses. Okay? You've got like brain surgeon, rocket scientist, streamer up here. I could be a brain surgeon. I could be a rocket scientist. I don't want to do that stuff. I don't feel like it, okay? I want to stream and have fun and hang out with you guys, okay? You got me building some fucking rocket for SpaceX? Fuck no. Let's hang out. Okay. So yeah, we found this. He's talking about the I Ching. Let's hear his breakdown of the I Ching. And then I'll try. Hopefully we'll have time. I'll put this sped up a little bit. Hopefully we'll have time to what did I want to? There was another Terence thing I wanted to get to. I'll see if I can find it. Hold on.
You know how to do that?
On the Indian grounds. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's real easy. Yeah, to throw the coins.
Mm-hmm.
It's really heads, tails, you know.
Well, it's supposedly it's some sort of a like future reading thing, right? Do you think it works?
Oh, yeah.
What does it tell you?
Well, first time I did it,
yeah,
I rolled it. I did my.
Explain to people how it works.
Well, what it is, you get 3 coins,
Mhm.
and you throw the 3 coins, and you get numbers from 6 to 9, and anything in between 6, 7, 6, 8, 9. I think it's something like that. Anyway, each number tells you what line you're going to read, and you throw it 3 times, and you write down, and then you get a sort of like a plan of what page you're supposed to look at.
Mhm.
And then when you get the page, then it tells you, what you're asking it, because you got to ask the I Ching for something,
Mhm.
and it'll answer you. And for instance, I threw mine when I did it. I threw it, and the first line said, "You are in jail for a reason."
Whoa! How does it say that?
It just said it.
Man, it says it. How is it? What do you translate?
You write it. You read it. It's been written in that book for centuries. That line is in that book for centuries.
Really?
3,000 years, something like that. And so I read it because they still talk about chariots and kings and queens, everything. That was the first line. You are in jail for a reason. Jails are corrective institutions that will correct your behavior.
That's what the I Ching is telling you.
That's what the I Ching. Well, what they did, they updated it. The girls that wrote it, they updated it to the modern time. I think it's Armstrong is the girls that there are a couple.
Yeah, basically, Maddie P. I Ching is basically like a magic 8-ball, pretty much. Yeah, it's a magic 8-ball. You know what I should have done is I should have done Scott Starbird's Chinese guy character to cover I Ching for the whole night, do an accent, real offensive accent, scare people off because I do a Chinese accent, talk about I Ching.
The girls that wrote it. It's a big, thick book, but it and then it went on there. And another guy, Mike, this Chicano, he saw me, he thought it was a game, so he's all set for the game. What are you playing? I said, no, I'm doing the I Ching. I said, do you want me to do you? And he said, yeah. So I did his.
Do me, Holmes.
And it's very polite not to read the readings of the other guy, let him read it first. And so I did the numbers and I give it to him, and he read it, and he just handed me the book, and he sat on his bunk, and he just stared. And so then I read what it said, and he a month before, he lost his wife and child in a car accident. They were coming out to visit him. And the I Ching said, you suffered a great misfortune.
Wow.
It was like dead on.
Wow.
Dead on. And the I Ching goes on to tell you, what to do. And this is, next month is going to be tough. This month is going to be good, and we see hope for you. It's like astrology. It's almost the same.
Well, I know Terence McKenna was really into it. He's really into the I Ching, and he thought it was something.
What I tell you guys, Terence McKenna. That's why Joe Rogan knows about the I Ching, is because of Terence McKenna.
Sort of a map of time. He was trying to figure out what it was and how it worked and why it can predict things.
And if you mess with it, it'll tell you.
You fuck with it,
like the Ouija board, sometimes if you do the Ouija board, same thing. And if you start making it a game, let's ask it this, let's ask it that. Who's going to win the race tomorrow and that? And right away, the I Ching catches that and knows your real feelings, and it tells you. And it'll tell you, don't do that.
What do you think it is?
It's a Chinese
demon
method of divination.
I think what it is, it's a spiritual way of communicating us. Remember in Ghost, where Patrick Swayze had to learn how to move a coin? Remember that?
Yeah.
The spirits, especially spiritual people, they're around us. And so you give them a chance to communicate with you, because they know all. They will communicate. And so the I Ching gives the spirits a chance to communicate. So when you throw a coin, they know what heads or tails or whatever it is, the number that you need to talk to you.
Right.
And that's my theory. Gotta try it, man.
Yeah, I'm curious because I do know that many people have used it to try to figure out what their life is about and what they're doing with their life. And the weirdest thing about it is they seem to find some real answers in it.
And they keep them to themselves.
Yeah, but the idea that I'd heard that made the most sense was that the way the world works is not as simple and as easy as 1 + 1 = 2, left, right, walk down the road, but that there's intention and thought that also helps formulate our universe. And what the I Ching does is it somehow clarifies intention and thought, and it clarifies like the actual process is going on in your mind, and it quantifies it and puts it into a way that you can read your effect on life and life's effect on you in this, and then it reads it somehow or another, even though it doesn't make any sense. It's a method of divination. It's a method of discovering what's happening.
Yeah, it's a method of communicating with the spirit world.
You think that's what it is?
Oh yeah. And the thing is, getting back to the AI, the artificial intelligence, we already use artificial intelligence in our lives every day. Like Alexa is a good example.
That bitch.
Yeah, I love her. She's never steered me wrong yet. She's told me I've asked the wrong questions.
Right.
But I see, this is my theory, is that everybody in the universe wants us, the spirits, they want us to be enlightened, because the more enlightened we are, the more we can enjoy what we've inherited. Because when you're born into this world, you've inherited
you're taking it for granted.
A kingdom.
Amazing.
Yeah, you've inherited a kingdom.
Especially in comparison to the rest of time. All the human history. This is the greatest time, the greatest, most fortunate.
That's what I'm saying. Look at us. Look what we got now going for us now. And how much effort did that take? It was like being part of a team. And so when you're ready, boom, you're pushed out in front. You're up there. And so, our duty as students is to learn everything we can learn and to teach whatever we can teach. And that's why there should be no paranoia, because we're not here long enough so that being rich or being poor makes any kind of a difference. Because yourself. I mean, what do you really need in this life?
Right.
What do you really need? Water, food,
companionship, love,
friends.
Yeah, and something.
All right, let's hop over to this other video. This is actually, I believe, like a Terence. I think it's a lecture. Christian said, I actually fell in love with JRE because he loved McKenna. Yeah. No, I could tell even before ever hearing him talk about Terence, I could tell. Mark Roy, what's up, dude? Dark Man, what's happening? You're on another wavelength. Love. Hell yeah. We're out here on this wavelength. Don't mind us. Here, let's get on this tab. We're going to be on this other wavelength over here. Let's get you over to this wavelength. Oh, God. This fucking guy. Dude. What is this guy?
Opportunity, whether you're a person right now in a career or you got a business.
That guy isn't even a person. He's some kind of fucking monster. Look at him. This guy is like 6 foot tall. This man is 7'6", 6'7", and talks like a fucking monster or something. What is he telling us about? Some kind of investment opportunity?
You have to know how to use it. It's easy to get overwhelmed.
Novelty is not necessarily.
Okay, here we go. Lock in, chat. Terence McKenna final interview recorded October 5th, 98. I do think he got interviewed after that. There's like multiple videos claiming to be the last interview. The controversy.
Novelty is not necessarily good or nice. Novelty is complex. That's what it is. And so I see really a concatenation of tendencies and forces here at the end. It's only going to get weirder. The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciatingly, even beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. So I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder. And finally, it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods, because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. So between now and 2012, the next 14 years, I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet, these are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. The fact that there is no such thing as the Soviet Union, people never talk about it anymore. But when I was a kid, the notion that that would ever change was beyond conceiving. So the good news is that as primates, we're incredibly adaptable to change. Put us in a desert, we survive. Put us in the jungle, we survive. Under Hitler, we survive. Under Nixon, we survive. We can put up with about anything, and it's a good thing because we're going to be tested to the limits. The breakdown of anything, and this is why the right wing is so alarmed, because what they see going on is the breakdown of all tradition, all order, all sanctioned norms of behavior. And they're quite right that it's happening, but they're quite wrong to conclude that it should be resisted or is somehow evil. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse. And that's what we have, the fire in the madhouse at the end of time. This is what it's like when a species prepares to move on to the next dimension. The entire destiny of all life on the planet is tied up in this. We are not acting for ourselves or from ourselves. We happen to be the point species on a transformation that will affect every living organism on this planet at its conclusion. Novelty theory is something I've been working on since the early 70s, inspired by psychedelic plant experiences in the Amazon, to attempt to look at time and really deconstruct it and attempt to understand what it is. And this has been a wild intellectual ride leading to some pretty easily stated conclusions. One is that novelty, which is my term for complexity or advanced organization, novelty increases as we approach the present moment. The universe you and I are living in is a far more novel and complicated place than the early universe was. Well, some people would say, well, that's just a consequence of the unfolding of developmental processes. But this asks the question, what are developmental processes? Why should the universe have a preference for order over disorder, especially when we have something called the second law of thermodynamics, which tells us exactly the opposite? Physicists believe the universe is running down ultimately into a state of disorder. But what I see is everywhere the emergence of more and more complex forms, languages, organisms, technologies, always building on the previously achieved levels of complexity. So that was one of my insights. Coming out of that insight was the further understanding that this process of complexification through time is not proceeding at a steady rate. It actually follows a kind of asymptotic curve. In other words, it's happening faster and faster. And this was a revelation to me because it allowed me philosophically to contextualize the human world and to understand that human technologies, languages, migrations, art movements, ideologies are not something different from nature. They're the same process that we see in the movement of continents, the evolution of new species of animals, except that these human novel emergent situations are happening much more quickly. So I see the cosmos, if you will, as a kind of novelty producing engine, a kind of machine which produces complexity in all realms, physical, chemical, social, whatever, and then uses that achieved level of complexity as the platform for further complexity. Well, this explains our present circumstance. It explains the rush toward all forms of new technology and social organization in the new millennium. But you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that if the universe is complexifying faster and faster, an epoch, a time will come when this rate of complexification is occurring so rapidly that it will become itself the overwhelming phenomena in the world of three-dimensional space and time. And I call this the omega point, or the transcendental object at the end of history. And I believe it is not that far off, that with the emergence of a global internet, a human population of several billions, an electronic noosphere, that we are now within the shadow of this transcendental object at the end of time. Our religions sense it. That's what gives them their apocalyptic intuitions. And I think the ordinary man and woman in the street sense a kind of built-in acceleration to time itself. Well, rather than dismissing that or treating it as a psychological perception or something unique to our society, I took it as a basic perception about physics and have built elaborate mathematically defined theories around this idea.
This channel seems cool. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this channel, but this is part of an interview. I could show you which one this is from. I am familiar with the audio, but and he's out. If I'm not mistaken, it's the one where he's outside and there's like plants around him and shit. But this channel is called After School, and I guess they basically do like I don't know if they do this for everything, but this is kind of hypnotizing watching them do the hand-drawn art, and it's all with like markers. It's cool.
And then have found, to my astonishment, incredible congruences with other work. I'm thinking of the Mayan calendar and its curious countdown-like quality toward an extremely unique event that the Maya felt would occur in the same time frame that my own equations predicted, even though at the time I was unaware of the Maya. So what we have here is a new model of time based on a very real intuition that I think most people share, which is that time is speeding up, that human beings are part of that process, and that the culmination of that process is now within the ven of historical time. In other words, I believe it will happen in 2012, in December, coincident with the same events that the Maya placed at the end of their calendar. Even if I'm wrong, even if it's 100 years or 500 years later, these are still spans of time that, when compared to the life of the planet, are fractions of a percentage. So whether you believe, as I do, that we can know the precise moment of this transformation of the world of time, or whether you believe it is simply coming soon and fast, really doesn't make that much difference. We are all gathered here at the end game of developmental processes on this planet. We are about to become unrecognizable to ourselves as a species. Our technologies, our religions, our science has pushed us toward this for thousands of years without us awakening to what the denouement would be. Now we stand close enough to it that I think all but the most lumpen among us must feel the tug of the transcendental and the transformative.
Dang. Is it raining? I think it's raining right now. Let's see if Scott's not on yet. Hold on a second. Let's do this number. I don't want y'all seeing my history. I got videos of guys twerking in my history. I don't mind telling you that, but I don't want to show you which ones, because that would be weird. Oh, that's right. I was gonna go to subscriptions. Never mind. See if Scott's got his deal up. Okay, I assume Scott's going on at like 6:30, because I don't see the video set up yet. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna get out of here in a minute. Let's go over to let's go to the pig pen. Butter Knives said DMS history, twink on twink, hate crime, SysX videos. That's funny. So yeah, guys, these are the guys I sort of like stepped on their time slot today. But yeah, my buddy the Fat Pig is the main host of this show, is the Pig Pen. Yeah, subscribe to this channel for sure.
I try to just be happy.
In your dick. Like, you ever have a buddy who's like, oh, I know you got a small dick, you're a pathetic little dick.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. So as you can tell, it's really it's really family friendly content over there. Go check it out. No, for realsies, subscribe to my buddy Fat Pig. He's trying to build his channel up and stuff. He's new to the deal. I am too. So help me too. Subscribe to me too, and hit my like buttons. But as you can see, I hit this like button Christian, thanks for stopping in, bud. I appreciate it. Yeah, we cover all kinds of shit on this channel, so definitely stop in some other time. I'm all over the place over here. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Go head over. I'll be in their chat. I'll be up in the Pigpen chat while I get a couple things done before I head out, and then we got Scott Starboard, of course, going live at what's it called, like 6:30-ish p.m. Eastern time. I'm assuming, because I don't see the stream video set up yet. So, Scott's right here. When are you going live? About 6:15, 6:30, somewhere around there. Either way, go over 6:30. Okay, yeah. Go sub to Scott's channel. He'll be live at 6:30, and we'll be slutting it up in that chat over there as well. So yeah, guys, I love you. Let's listen to more of the Pigpen show for a minute, and then we're gonna get out of here. Here we go.
And he's like, all right, sir. It's a faster way to get through security. You creep the motherfucker out. Not to mention, I don't want some random fucking black guy or white guy. The race doesn't matter. But I don't want some random fucking dude
Say hi,
putting his
everybody.
hands all over my fucking junk.
Say hi, we're being sniped by Dark Match Steve.
Oh.
What's up?
Steven, how dare you?
Sniped.
Why would you do this to us? Why? Why, Steve?
Stealing that content.
Love you. We love you, sir.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah.
I was just sharing him out.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Much love to Dark Match Steve. Scott
Oh, yeah.
Starboard as well. He'll be on after Steve.
Oh, perfect.
And then it's going to be We Are Live with Bobby Nick.
No, you forgot the end. It's and we are live.
Be right back. I thought I said and we are live.
No.
So yeah, Bobby, Nick, and this is Juggalo Jen. Go follow them too on their channels too. We got our little community going here.
You said
And we are live.
and we are live. Fuck yeah.
All right, guys, hop over into their chat. I'll be in their chat. Thank you guys for the support. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. I don't know about tomorrow. Scott, are you in here still? You're streaming tomorrow, right? You're doing Fridays now, correct? Or am I crazy? Are you doing Fridays from now on? I think he is. I think Scott is doing Fridays. So either way, I'll be live tomorrow night for something fun. Yes, sir. He's doing Fridays. So yeah, we'll go on after Scott, most likely. I don't see myself getting out of work super early. So I should be live at about 8 o'clock, probably 8 on the dot. And we got something fun planned, not crazy fun like tonight, trip out fun, but different fun for tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys for hanging with me. This has been Dark Times with Dark Match Steve. I love you. Thank you for the support. Smooches. Mwah.